What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. We got Will here.
What's up?
Again today, who has been frequently on the channel now.
Yeah, I feel at home, man.
Yeah, this is like
good.
your, fifth YouTube channel now?
Yeah.
You're on mine?
yeah, I got a lot of them, guys. Go check them out.
Yeah.
Subscribe, too.
Definitely. And
Notifications.
Subscribe to this channel if you have not, and if you're interested in different cultures, because we got a great video for you guys today. Will has lived now in 3 different Nordic countries.
Yeah.
Finland, Denmark, Sweden. But the focus of this video, we're going to reflect on the differences between Sweden and Denmark in the cultures, in the people, all of these types of things, and having your expertise. Because I've been to Denmark once for like vacation.
Okay.
And only seen Copenhagen. But like, where in Denmark were you?
So I was in Randers.
Okay.
Randers, if I'm an American, person. And it's not too far from the second biggest city in Denmark, which is Aarhus.
Okay.
Which you may have heard of.
Yeah.
And so I lived there, and then I lived in Rovaniemi, which is in the north, about a kilometer or so, I think, south of the Arctic Circle.
Okay.
So a place where it snows like throughout your summer.
And that was Finland.
That's Finland.
Yeah.
So, but in Denmark, Randers, and then I spent a lot of time in Copenhagen doing different football stuff like that.
Definitely.
So I know it well.
So we've made a little bit of content about Sweden and Denmark and America and Denmark before, but we really want to jump into it a little bit deeper and have a deeper discussion, because the more I researched about it, even though I would say people in like Scandinavia are very, very similar on like a global scale, when you like zoom in, there actually are, I think, some differences from country to country. So I'm just going to go over like some of the research that I was reading online, and then maybe you can give like your perspective having lived there. Is this true? Like, what was it in your experience?
Totally.
So the first thing I saw is like some of the reasoning for all this is like Denmark is more geographically like closer to continental Europe versus Sweden, which is a little bit further away. Like if you're in Stockholm, it might take you like 5 or 6 hours on a train just to get down to the southern border, whereas Denmark's much smaller, much closer to everything. And so being in that way, one of the arguments that I was reading was that Denmark, some of their like cultures and attitudes might be like closer to what they have on continental Europe, because I mean you can just take a train, go to different countries that are closer by and there. What is your like thoughts on that?
I'd say it's not even that people can take a train and go out. It's that the rest of the continental Europe has access to you and will start to form a relationship with you in that sense. And it equates the same thing to me that I see is the same thing I played also in Baku, Azerbaijan, which is really next to Turkey. And what you see of Turkey is that it is the bridge between Europe and Asia. And if you've been to Istanbul?
Never actually, but I want to.
Gotta go. One of my favorite cities. Yeah. But right across, Istanbul is split up in a European and an Asian side.
Okay.
And as far as I can see in Scandinavia, what I feel when I'm there is like Copenhagen and Denmark is that split from mainland to what is, this whole Nordic Scandinavian empire. That's what I see.
Wow. So like Copenhagen is sort of like the Istanbul, but like for Northern Europe, that's sort of like the bridge between the Scandinavian culture and like the Danish and
that's everything that I see right there. And I mean, as you can see, the influence that all of mainland Europe has had on Copenhagen, the difference, the art, the history and stuff like that. It's just that bridge right there. If you want to explore more, you generally don't skip Copenhagen. It's like you go through there.
Here's one thing that I really noticed when I was in Denmark was how much more expensive it was. A lot of times I would go out for like a fika, I guess. I wouldn't really say fika in Denmark. I'd go out for like a coffee or whatever we want to call that. And the prices would look the same as they would be in Sweden, but it was in Danish crowns instead of Swedish crowns. Right. And the Danish crowns are worth a lot more than the Swedish crowns. So it was like I was paying like 30 or 40% more for the same thing, it seemed like.
Yeah, they're doing well. I mean, business-wise, like we said earlier, it's not that Stockholm or Sweden in general isn't doing well, obviously, financially, but Copenhagen has made itself some sort of hub of, proper business. And because of that, things are more expensive. You just notice it. And honestly, like, I don't know about you, but like as an American or anybody who feels is a foreigner to this, you just come to Scandinavia, it all feels kind of like one. You're just like, oh my God, everything. Why is this water $100? I don't understand what I'm supposed to pay. This beer is $30,000. Like I have to give up my college tuition.
Oh, that's great. And from what I was reading is like everything is more expensive in Denmark except for the booze.
Okay. Yeah.
And in Sweden, obviously, the booze is really expensive. You go out and you spend like $10 for a beer, and that can be like pretty normal here. Yeah, we touched a little bit, since we're in this like food and drink space. Well, I mentioned fika, which is a Swedish concept, like the Swedish coffee break, what they call it here in Sweden. And in Denmark, they have a word that's very...
Hygge.
Hygge.
Hygge, du.
Yeah. Am I saying that right? Hygge?
Hygge. Yeah. I mean, good enough. I mean, who am I to say? But it's close enough. I had never heard of fika until I got here.
Okay.
Because there's no concept of fika in that sense in Denmark. What you will run up to is... Hygge du.
Yeah.
Vad laver du, man? Jag hygger bara. Det är bara att jag hygger.
So is it like chillin'? Like...
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like, it is one of the most funny things to try and explain. And when you see it, for over the course of like the last 2 or 3 years, it kind of became popular in the U.S. to talk about hygge. We discovered it in the U.S. And so what they would try and do is translate it as cozy.
Okay.
Which is not cozy.
Yeah.
It's like... This is kind of cozy. We're sitting here. It's nice. It's daytime. It's weekend. We're chilling, you know. But it's not. We don't have everything set up. It's a mood and a style. You have to get into it, you know.
It's a word that is hard to understand, because I have this like sort of thing in my head, like, oh, it's like you cozy up by the fire and like have a like warm cup of like a beverage or something. But then, like, if you go out to a bar with some friends, could that be hygge also?
Depends on what you guys are doing. If you guys are jumping up and down, having the $30, Swedish beer while everybody's going, no.
So if you're at a club, that's not hygge.
Probably not. If you've managed to do that, you've got some sort of Zen experience.
Right. Yeah. So it's more of like a relaxed state of mind.
Relaxed state of mind, relaxed setting. It tends to be that you've package, you've kind of set up, you plan to have this. Yeah. You've got the nice bread here. You've done some stuff to make this a hygge experience.
I think one of the very, very interesting things when comparing Sweden and Denmark is the language, because like I can read a lot of Danish. I can sort of like figure it out when it's written, but trying to understand it when it's spoken, it's very, very difficult. So you can really see like how similar the two languages are, but like I've heard that Danish is actually one of the like most difficult languages to pronounce.
Pronunciation was the first thing that got me, because the D's, like learn how to say goon.
Yeah.
Goon. It's just like you have this thing here that you just never use, that they're just like using all the time, and it's not grammatically, it's not that hard really, like as a native English speaker, for us. But then when you realize that you have to change the way your throat works, then it becomes like this new thing, and I remember hearing it before, like really understanding things and thinking, I don't hear a word in there. I don't hear stops.
Yeah, it all sort of like flows together in a way, probably. Yeah, like that was for me, like I had grown up with German and then like moving to Sweden, and the Swedish language flows a lot, whereas in German you can like there's harsh breaks between the words. Yes. It's very structured. It's very boom, boom, boom. So even like after living in Sweden for 6 months, I think my German comprehension was still ahead of my Swedish comprehension, just because listening to it is so much easier.
Yeah.
And the Swedish, it's like it's a melody.
Yeah.
And I think Danish, you also have the melody, but the pronunciation and the weird sounds, it makes it like very, very difficult.
Totally.
Like I had my Viaplay account in Danish, so I'd like try to listen to like the Danish commentary to like the sports games and stuff, and just like it might as well have been Chinese to me. Like
you never have. I honestly, to this day, I still don't believe that I speak even a word of Danish, because I'm never confident that I'm saying the right thing. It's so the sound is so foreign and far from what I'm saying right now that you never even think. Like I'm always surprised when I ask for something that the other person understands me. I'm like, that's a word.
Got it.
That's a word.
I'm trying myself. I got it. Yeah, actually, I heard somewhere that like Danish babies are, of all like places in the world, the Danish babies are the ones that like take the longest to learn the language.
Whoa.
So people are like making like comments like, oh,
like
Danish babies are
stupid.
Blah, blah, blah. It's not that. I think it's just because the language is like more difficult, basically.
That's crazy if that's true. That's one where we gotta say, somebody pull it up. Somebody pull it up and get it. The comments section, you guys will
correct me if I'm wrong, but I did hear that somewhere. On the topic of language, I think all the Scandinavian countries speak amazing English, but I did also read somewhere that the Swedish people tend to like, you can hear Swedish people speaking English sometimes and you're like, oh, what part of the UK are they from? You know, like you don't even sound Swedish. Like there's so many people here to speak flawless English without an accent. I think there's probably a lot of people in Denmark that are also like that. But from when I was reading, I would say their accent might be like coming through a little bit more in general.
It makes sense. It makes sense because just of the things that I've talked about. I mean, that throat, that glottal stuff that goes on and it's normal for them is much harder to lose. It's, I would say, easier for me to jump in and try and, you know, learn how to go like that with my throat than it is to try and make sure that never happens ever, you know? And so it is, I'm always tripped up by the people that choose to speak or are more influenced by the UK British English because of the influence of, I mean, America's cultural influence and in media and everything. Obviously, our accent is most widely seen, you know, in the world. So it's always interesting to see, like, did you choose that? And some of them, like some people I've met over there have chosen to speak British English, which makes them sound quite posh. Yeah,
it's interesting living as a native English speaker in a country where that's not the native language because everybody picks up English in different ways. A lot of people, I'd say the dominant accent is actually the American accent because that's what they see on like the TVs and everything here. But sometimes people like have learned like the British English in schools. Maybe they went to an international school with like British teachers or whatever. Maybe they did like a work and travel in Australia or something and they picked up a little bit of an Australian accent. So that can be sort of interesting as an American living in
it is. It's crazy.
Now we're going to get to the juicy stuff, the most interesting stuff, I think, comparing the people a little bit deeper. I made a video on my channel talking about the happiest countries in the world. Denmark and Finland were the top two. So Denmark is considered one of the happiest countries in the world.
Number one. Denmark.
Was it? Well, I think it has gone back and forth.
Okay.
So Denmark has been in the number one spot. I think Finland might be in the number one spot now, but it's right neck and neck, I think. Sweden was ranked 7th, which is still really, really good. But actually, according to this, the Danes are a little bit happier. And from the research that I was doing, it said that Danish people seem to be a little bit like more relaxed, a little bit like less stressed out, a little bit more easygoing, maybe even like a little bit more outgoing. I think a lot of Swedish people can like bottle up their emotions at times, whereas maybe the Danish people have an easier time being in that culture where they are outgoing. What are your like thoughts?
I've seen that? I mean, being on the teams that I've been on, it does seem like, I would even say, God, it's hard. I think that the Danes might be a bit more outgoing, and I think once again it comes back to the exposure that they have to when you have to deal with other cultures, and not that Sweden isn't multicultural, which it is, especially in the cities, you know, which is it's massively, but it does seem to feel like they would prefer to be a bit less outgoing than the Danes have kind of taken on that role. That's what it seems like. You know, I'm not sure if the Danes would want to be more reserved. It just seems like they're naturally a bit more outgoing, just a bit more.
Yeah, it's interesting. And just like from what I was reading also, like there's almost this little bit more like hippie or like eclectic sort of vibe, like people riding their bikes more, like going and having a beer over here. And I feel like at least in Stockholm, everything seems to be a little bit more like buttoned up and fancy in a sense.
You guys are so fancy.
I mean, Stockholm is just like a beautiful city. Everything's clean, everything's tidy. And I thought Copenhagen was like a very, very beautiful, cool city as well. If I were to compare the two, I would say, I think in terms of like just sheer beauty of the city, I would rank Stockholm slightly higher than Copenhagen. But in terms of like the overall like laid back vibe, I really, really like that about Copenhagen, and Copenhagen's a really like stunning city in its own right. But it is definitely like a different vibe.
Stockholm as a city, as a whole, is a nicer city with the parks and all the things, and that's not a knock on Copenhagen even at all, because it is nice. But Stockholm's done something well with the balance and the blend of that. So they got something just perfect right there that I just have not. I love. It's just crazy.
Stockholm is built so integrated so well with all the islands that you're on this island, like all the different neighborhoods are like different islands, it seems like. And for me, loving to be around water, yes, there's like some really cool water areas in Copenhagen as well, but it's like you're always so close to it here.
Copenhagen, they have it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the little street. Not little, even by any means.
Nyhavn.
Is it Nyhavn?
Yeah, where everybody takes the Instagram photos.
Yeah,
and there's like
yeah.
bars and restaurants.
I stayed there. Yeah, it's super nice.
Yeah, I
You
love
have
that.
water there.
Yeah.
It's nice. But yeah, even just one thing to touch on the Swedish fancy clothes thing. I've never, and I don't remember this as much in Denmark. Would you say Stockholm is the nicest? It is, actually. Stockholm is the nicest dressed place in Scandinavia. I've not been to Oslo. I've not been to Norway.
I think they dress really nice in Norway as well, but I haven't been before. But like in terms of like when I first moved to Stockholm, I was just like so surprised. Like guys are just like walking around in like white collared button up like dress shirts and like navy blue slacks like everywhere on the subway. Like that's like the Stockholm like uniform. Like, people dress really, really like fancy in a way here.
For us.
Yeah, for us being Americans. And I think in Denmark, they probably dress more like that too, compared to America. But in comparison to like Stockholm, and I can't speak for all of Sweden because like I think a lot of areas in Sweden are a lot more relaxed. But if we're comparing like Stockholm and Copenhagen, I think Copenhagen's more relaxed. So Stockholm, I think, just is a little bit fancier. Those ways, sure.
They don't ever make you feel bad that you're not dressed, but I can only imagine what's going on in their head when they see you like in a sweatsuit. Like, are you in your pajamas still? Like, what? You're outside. Get your stuff on.
People here really, really care about how they look.
They look good.
They do. They're doing a great job. They look good. All right, guys. I think that is all that we wanted to talk about in this video. If you want some more great content, you can check out the podcast channel that I have, Culture Shocks, with my friend Frederick. We're going to have Will on as a guest probably pretty soon. So be sure to check out what's going on there. Check out Will's channels, especially if you're into football.
Yes, and then TikTok if you are into languages, of course.
Yeah.
Because I speak a whole bunch.
Yeah. Too many to count. Yeah.
What's that?
Too many languages to count.
Yeah.
All right, guys. With that, I'll see you in another video.
Later.